Well, the thing we all figured was going to happen finally happened. Hello, interwebs! I hope you are all doing well, and I am here to review the latest episode of Peacemaker Season 2. This one, episode 6, I believe we're on right now. Ignorance is Chris. And yes, full spoilers, by the way. I'm going to go full spoilers on this episode if you have not seen it yet. Just saying that right up front. But this is the episode where we finally get the reveal that we have all been expecting, me, since episode 1. Like, literally, I think I said it in my review of episode 1 that I expected this reveal, but I think most people got it around that time, or just a few episodes later, that this is, again, last warning here, this is the Nazi world. Like, literally, they have a swastika on the American flag. I really love, and this kind of comes at the end, I'm skipping to the end here, but we'll just talk about it up first, because I think it's what everyone's going to be talking about. But I think it's really funny that, like, Harcourt immediately kind of clocked it, is like, yeah, there's no people of color in this world either. And she was like looking out the window at stuff when she was going with Chris's brother. I love that she clocked it, and Chris is like, no way. Like, I had no idea. Didn't even look at it like American flag at any point during it. I really kind of, it fits. It very much fits. But yes, it is finally the thing that we expected this show to do. And man, it is very horror movie-esque. With, we have Adebayo running with a bunch of white people chasing her at the end. I mean, it's played for comedy, but like, I know that is a very real thing that many people of color deal with, like just being one black person or one person of color in the suburbs can be very, very dangerous. I remember I used to do canvassing for the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center, and we were canvassing in a very white suburban area that's outside of LA. And like, one of the things that was very important was like, no, we need to not have just like black canvassers by themselves, because they get the cops called on them pretty quickly. So again, it's just a reflection of the real world that we currently live in. The very white supremacist world we very much live in. But it is nice we finally got that reveal. Anyways, a lot of other stuff that I really liked this episode, just before we even get to that point. The comedy in this episode really worked for me, like just so many moments. I know for many of you who don't know, my podcast partner for the Babylon 5, and used to be Babylon 5, now Battlestar Galactica podcast that I host, is Vera Wild from the Council of Geeks channel, and she cannot stand cringe comedy, so I just know when she's going to do her review of this episode, she's going to talk about the scene with Hardcourt, and Vigilante's mom is going to really do a number on her. She's not gonna like that, but I found it funny. I like cringe comedy. Also, the bits with like them stealing the money was really good. The cocaine falling on them, it was all really funny. And I just really love seeing Vigilante's like particular weirdnesses. Like, he's so embarrassed and so rude to his mom, and yet he'll like it, but like, he always goes over the top with it. And like, when Harcourt says like, oh, you call me slutty, he's like, yeah, if the base in some truth, which is not, she's not really, like, it's just, you get this like interesting look into his very skewed mind, especially when he goes and meets his other self in the other universe, which, by the way, I love that they just instantly got each other. They're just like, oh, I accept you, you're from me from another dimension, great. And then they just keep like listing a bunch of weirdly specific things, like the man in the sky whose face that they see is like, no, that's not a figment of my imagination, there's a guy in the sky, I have to go inside to run away from him. I love that. I hope to God it would be very funny if that gets a payoff either in the show or somewhere down the line in the DCU, like James Gunn just writes in like, there is a guy in the sky it's looking down at people. That would be really funny. But yeah, I love that. And then the reveal, obviously, that Vigilante works for the Sons of Liberty, so obviously they're the anti-fascist force in this world. Oh man, is this our world? Is this the world that is the world that Chris ends up in? Is it our world? Because more and more it's looking increasingly likely. Anyways, that's a depressingly sad thought. But yeah, I love the Vigilante stuff. I love all the comedy that happens here. The other big moment for me is the Harcourt Chris stuff was really good. The scene between the two of them, our Harcourt and Chris, was so well done. Them, like, you just see how much Harcourt is like avoiding the conversation, and yet she is being willing to like open up to him and go at him, being like, I was hurt that you thought that I would betray you, and like calling him out on that. And there's that moment where he says like, I can't leave these people I can't, like, abandon these people at the end. And, like, there's implication of, like, Chris, so you can't leave these people that you just fucking met, but you can leave and abandon us? Like, I'm surprised she didn't say fuck. Like, she says something, I forget her exact line, but she has an exasperated line there. I'm surprised she didn't say fuck you to that, because I would have been like, oh, you can abandon us, but you can't abandon these fucking people. So, yeah, I think that is an interesting point. Honestly, I'm curious to see how they're going to develop that, because this being the Nazi fascist plan almost kind of makes it a little bit too easy, right? Like, there is something to be said about Chris having to learn, like, no, you can't just abandon your friends like that. That's shitty. That's really, really shitty. And for making them all fascists, be like, oh yeah, they're all terrible people. Never mind, they can go. I can leave. It'll probably make it, like, I'm sure Chris will have something to overcome in leaving his brother, especially. But I do think it does make it a little bit easy. That they are fascists to a degree. But again, there's other social commentary going on here. Also, speaking of, I didn't get this when I didn't mention this earlier with Vigilante. I did like that Vigilante, like, kind of just switches on a dime and says he doesn't want to go and see Chris. At first, I was thinking, like, this just seems weird. If, like, it would seem like Vigilante should want to go and confront Chris as well. And this just seems like the show trying to push him aside so that they could, like, go meet Vigilante or whatever. But there is actually somebody who said, like, no, he's kind of avoiding it. He doesn't want to admit it. And he doesn't want to look that in the eye. Because he doesn't want to admit that, like, Peacemaker has been treating him like shit. And he kind of just has this, like, rosy colored view on things in his own weird, unique Vigilante way. Trying to think what else there is to mention here. Oh, the big thing that I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about. Duh. Lex Luthor. We got a Lex Luthor cameo. Holy crap. Did not expect that. I am fully expecting a Superman cameo. There have been pictures online, spoilers, mild spoilers here, but there's pictures online of the actors just being on the Superman set. So with David Cornsweet. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be in the show, but it does lead me to believe, like, especially if we're getting Lex Luthor, we're going to get David Cornsweet. I will say, it is interesting to see Nicholas Holt's performance as Lex Luthor here, because he's a bit more grounded than he was in the Superman movie. I mean, in the Superman movie, he is very, if you haven't seen it, he's very over-the-top kind of version of Lex Luthor. No, I mean, not, like, to a ridiculous degree, like, not doing the, like, Zack Snyder version of Lex Luthor. He's not that far, and it fits for that version of Superman. I really loved him as Lex Luthor in there. But he is playing a little bit more, like, over the top than, say, ironically, the, like, animated DC Justice League TV show or the Superman animated show a few years ago. Like, that was I think that's, like, weirdly the most grounded version of Lex Luthor, at least in main pop culture consciousness outside of the comics. I'm sure there's, like, an animated movie here or there that's got an even more grounded one, but that's, like, one of the most well-known but grounded Luthors that we've gotten. I think Young Justice is also pretty grounded, too, but he's not really centered in that story as much. But here, I say all that to say, here, he is a little bit more grounded. I think that's in part just by, the tone of the show is a little bit more grounded than the Superman movie. Not that it's still a little ridiculous, but it's a little bit more grounded. And then also, he's not, like, facing off against Superman and screaming in a tower, like, punch, like, A1 or 1A or whatever it is, over and over again, or in his alternate dimension, like, getting one over on Superman. So he has a moment to, like, settle here, and I loved it. Because, like, I liked think Nicholas Holt's performance in Superman is great, but here this is the kind of Lex Luthor that I really love, where he's kind of cold and calculating and calm. And I'm glad that we get a moment to see this version of Lex Luthor, and I hope we get to see kind of both versions of him as we go forward in the DCU, because I'm sure he's going to be central to it in a lot of different ways. So I liked this moment, and you see that he wants to get away from metas. I'm assuming I can't place. I'm sure there's a couple. The two metahumans he was mentioning having had sex next to him. I think one of them probably would have been Killer Croc. Would be my guess. If Killer Croc is still alive in this universe, I guess. Did Killer Croc die in the original Suicide Squad? And technically that's not canon anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but it is kind of canon. Who the hell knows? But anyways, I'm curious to see what people make of that. But anyways, it was a great performance, and it was a really good cameo. Hopefully we'll get to see more of him. I doubt it, though. More than likely, this is the one we'll get. Maybe we'll get one more scene. But yeah. I really loved this episode. It kind of has finally gotten us to where we needed to, but it did it in a way that I thought was really funny, had some great emotional moments, had a great cameo, and I think was one of the stronger episodes of the season so far. So yeah, phenomenal episode. I'm excited to get into the final two. It seems like we're heading to a big showdown with a bunch of fascists. And And then there's also next episode where we also look like we're be heading down to a big showdown with a bunch of fascists. Anyways, love y'all. Take care on that note, and hope y'all live long and prosper.